Have you been hurt or injured in an accident? Well, I can't help you with that. Homes are my specialty, so if you're looking to buy or sell in the near future, please give me a call. Just try not to get hurt or injured in the process.
Castles in the sky, pretty moonbeams floating by, little people playing games, call each other funny names, little trees with lemon drops, gingerbread men with candy props, little ginger boys and girls, raisin eyes and sugar curls, flowered elves with violet eyes, peppermint shoes with licorice ties, bluebells ringing in the air, a little girl asleep in there, candy castles floating through the air.
Wow. Same hallway. Still the same department, the mailing room. That's exactly the way it was. Wow. Amazing. This used to be this was my office here. You went back, wow, put a wall in there. That used to be a conference room. Wow. Same furniture. My name is Tim Eppenstein. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be in broadcasting. I had no desire to be a fireman, a policeman, or anything else like that. I knew that I wanted to be in broadcasting. So when I was 15 years old, I got my first job in radio. And that was because I was sitting on my front porch one afternoon waiting for the paper. And one of my neighbors was the general manager of the local radio station, WCMI. So I was sitting there, and I saw a car go down the street, and a gentleman get out of the car, and I said, "That's Dick Clark." Dick Clark just drove down my street and went to my neighbor's house. I said, "Whoa, I'll go down there and knock on the door." So I just went there and knocked on the door. I said, "Mr. Nickel, did I just see Dick Clark come in your house?" He said, "Well, sure, come on in." And so there I was, 15 years old, and I met Dick Clark. So I'd worked at various stations around the Ashland area. Then in 1973, I got a job as sports director at Channel 13 in Huntington, where I was the sports anchor. And from there, I went on to be a reporter with them. And then my transition to WTBQ in Lexington. The Happy set was right here, in this corner. Froggie was over here, kind of like, he stood or sat about right here. That's where his hole was, like here.
So the door was there.
Yeah, the front door. Yeah, the front door of the house was there. Yeah. Is this the same tile on the floor?
My name is Mike McMellon, and I originally started Froggie in probably 1959-60 in Huntington. Did it there for about 17 years. And then when I went to Lexington, we was looking for someone to play Happy. And Tim's name come up a couple of times, and the guy that originated the show, Clark Davis, said, "Do you know somebody that could possibly do this?"
The general manager called me to his office, and I walked in, and I said, "Yes, Clark, what do you want?" He said, "Shut the door." I shut the door, and he threw these pair of high-top Converse tennis shoes toward me. I said, "I can't do this, Clark. I don't know anything about it. I've seen your rehearsals, but I certainly don't know anything about doing that type of character. I've never done anything like that before." He said, don't worry. We'll teach you this weekend." I said, "What am I going to wear? What kind of an outfit?" He says, "You're about my size. I got an old tuxedo." He said, "My wife Iris will fix it up and kind of make it look strange, and you can wear it. I've got an old hat. I've got a cane. You could just he says, that wasn't really our concept of what you were going to wear, but that'll work out okay. I don't care what you wear.
Well, when I was working at WTVQ, I was what's called the day director. So I directed commercials and all that production during the day. So I'd worked myself up to that point. One day, out of the blue, Clark Davis came to me and said he's going to start a children's program called Happy's Hour. You know, he told us what the concept was, and that it was really going to be a vehicle to show Our Gang comedy and the Three Stooges movies, you know, to a children's program, to a children's audience in the afternoon.
The concept of the show is related to me that first weekend with Clark Davis was Happy was a hobo. And somehow, some way, he was traveling through Lexington. He fell off of the train and was lying beside the railroad tracks. And he looked around, and there was this frog that was talking to him to kind of wake him up. So him and the Froggie, became fast friends, and they decided, well, Lexington is a cool place to live. We might as well stay here for a while. So Froggie and I looked for a place to live, and we found this vacant house that we moved into and just assumed control over. And we shared the house together, and I had built Froggie a hole in the wall and a little porch, a little stoop that he could come out on and talk to me. So he kind of lived behind the scenes in the walls.
Hey, let's get young again. Let's have some fun again. If you're young at heart, happy's here, so come on, let's start. TVQ 62. Have we got a show for you? Pick you up when you're down. It's the happiest show in town. And then the whistling would start. I'm John Ireson, and I wrote the music, the theme song for the Happy's Hour show. When I first wrote the song, it was not about Happy. I just wrote one little verse. I don't know why I did it. It was like, hey, let's get stoned again. Come on, light that bone again. I can't pick when I get high. I can't sing either because my mouth's too dry. And, of course, I put it away. And then when they called me and asked me if I'd write the song, the Happy's Hour theme, that tune stuck in my mind. I thought, that's a great tune.
John Ireson was a lounge singer, I guess would be a good term. In fact, he was at the Continental Inn there in Lexington for a while, Holiday Inn North. Clark Davis had been out to a bar one night and heard John sing and said, that'll be a good guy to sing the theme song.
I was working in nightclubs around Lexington at the time and writing some jingles, doing a few of those things. And they asked me if I would do the theme song. I said, sure. They didn't tell me much about what I was going to do. In fact, when I asked them, they said, just make it up. Happy's a clown, Happy's happy, and Happy's got an hour on TV. I said, that's all I need to know. So I took it from there. Hey, let's get young again. Let's have some fun again. If you're young or young at heart, Happy's here, so come on, let's start. TVQ 62. Have we got a show for you? Pick you up when you're down. It's a happy show in town. Or two, one for me, maybe three for you. Let's sing a happy song. Come on now, let's sing along. Hey, let's get young again. Let's have some fun again. If you're young,
I got my arm hung. Oh.
Let me help you. Is it
Careful. There.
Which one? There. Okay.
Get out there.
Okay. Now. hadn't heard your voice, I probably wouldn't recognize you because, well, you got the little gray hair, beard there and stuff. But yeah, how you doing?
Amazing.
Great.
It's been a long time since I've been in this building. Wow.
Yes, it's changed quite a bit.
It has.
When the show originally started, I was working in the studio, doing camera. I'd come in, and that was the beginning of my day, was the Happy and Froggie show, walk out, turn the lights on, hook up the microphones, and point the cameras, and we did that show. Rick Klein directed for the first, I don't know if it was a year or 2 years, and then he left, and I took over directing the show, and I directed to the end.
My job was to get the thing technically on the air. You know, the characters were established. The hobo had already been established from somewhere in the past. You know, Clark Davis, I think. Clark may have even been the character, I'm not sure. And the frog character was already set because McMellon already had that character set.
I was what we now call a studio technician, cameraman at WTVQ, and was there for the premiere broadcast of the Happy and Froggie show. Probably was the cameraman on it, but I'm not sure.
I would finish my classes at Eastern Kentucky University and drive like a wild man to TVQ, and like Arnie, that was the start of my day, was the Happy and Froggie show. I ran camera.
You know, we knew it was a kids show, but we also knew that there were probably some teenagers and college students watching out there as well. So some of the things with the attitude that Happy and Froggie had to each other might have been directed a little bit above the heads of a 5-year-old occasionally, which probably made it fun.
And I'd watch the show when I was in college, but I think everybody that went to UK or Eastern or Georgetown or Trancey, if you were in the neighborhood, you probably watched Happy and Froggie. I mean, it was the best show that Channel 62 ever had.
I end up having to fix supper so late that I'm awful hungry about this time. You're hungry. Well, I've solved the problem.
And, you know, for college guys, we thought it was the funniest show on TV because you watched it, and it was like watching Second City in your backyard. It was like Second City TV in your backyard. The improvisation was great.
One time we were doing it, and the frog had round, if you remember, had the little round eyes that were stuck on, and he lost one.
Lost an eye, yeah.
And I said, oh, I can't see a thing. And it broke Tim up. Of course, I couldn't see a thing because I lost my eye. But no, it was quite fun.
Froggie.
I remember Froggie's eye popping out once in a while and rolling across the floor, seeing a tight shot of the eye going there.
Well, yeah, that happened once. Yeah, his eye popped out and he screamed. You know, he was like, ah! You know, it's like, oh man, we just terrified children. Oh, you were always doubled over laughing.
Oh, my throat is hurting so bad. I wish somebody would just call me a doctor. You're a doctor.
Was it Jack Webb, Doctor Make Us Sick Be?
Make us well be, wasn't it?
Make us well be.
Yeah.
Make us well be.
May as well be.
May as well be.
Dr. May as well be. Yeah.
Sick or no sick? Who said that? Who called me out? Who in the world is at the door now? Empty or who is it? Oh no, it's Dr. Welby.
You called for a doctor.
Doctor, come out. It's down somewhere down in there, doctor. Do something. I sent Froggie to the drugstore to get some medicine, but he hadn't come back yet, so I need a doctor. What do you think?
Well, you're looking a mite pale.
At the time we were doing Marcus Welby, MD, was very popular on ABC. It was a doctor drama, and we made up a character called Make Us Sick Be.
What? Let's see. Open up.
Ah! What does that thing say?
According to this, you're dead. Oh, well, tell you what. Give you a prescription.
Oh, prescription. Good. That's my prescription.
Right. And if this doesn't help you, see my brother. He's the funeral director. Has a nice layaway plan.
Jane Drain.
Jane Drain.
Right. Yeah, we had to stop her before she did obscene things with the.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but
did Tim mention that, or did you happen to see it?
Hello, my name is Jane Drain.
Jane Drain.
Jane Drain, and I came with your mobile kitchen.
Oh boy.
Yes, what can I do for you? Hello, how are you? Glad to know you. Froggie, have you ever seen this? Let me turn on the...
No, I never have seen a Jane drain.
You know, she would come up and then she got her hand on the on the sink, and then she kind of gave it a little stroke, and there's a whole chain.
Stop.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, Ranger Rick, get off of... Are you ready to roll him, Ranger
We're
Rick?
rolling, boy. This thing about to eat him up.
We never did anything on rehearsal. We always was spontaneous, and I think they sort of enjoyed some of the humor that we had at the time.
Happy would ask Froggie, you know, "Are you going somewhere today?" And he'd say, Missouri, and Happy'd say, "Well, that's a fur piece," and then we'd throw a piece of fur out from off camera.
You know, I went upstairs one day and was sprouting around the props, and I found a bunch of numbers, 6 and 2, because the station was 62. And I took all the 2s, and the next time we had a Tuesday, we yelled, "What day is it?" And he said, "It's Tuesdays," and we threw all the 2s at him, you know, and it became 2s on Tuesday.
And Tim finally got to the point where he hated Tuesday.
Yes, he wouldn't say Tuesday anymore.
He wouldn't say Tuesday. You know,
He
and
didn't
you know, Froggie be trying to get him to say Tuesday, you know, because we'd be standing behind the cameras, you know, with like 5 of them like this. Yeah.
Tim and I have always got along well doing the show. We had a good time on personal appearances.
I was always a big part of any of the personal appearances that they did. And we did a lot of them right around in the Lexington area.
One year we actually did our shows, we taped them at the Bluegrass Fair. We had a portable set that we took with us when we did appearances at malls and stores. So we took that portable set with us and went to the Bluegrass Fair and stayed the entire week and did a week's worth of shows from there. The big department store in Fayette Mall that was called Stewart's at the time said they had a program called Breakfast with Santa on Saturday mornings for like the 3 or 4 Saturdays in preceding Christmas. They always had Santa Claus, of course, but they came to us and said, "We're going to try something different this year. We want Happy and Froggie to come and be with Santa." I said, "Well, that's an interesting concept," because so we went out on Saturday mornings, and we found strange was all the children would come to us instead of Santa. Like we were bigger than, and Froggie would say, "Oh, we're bigger than Santa." You know, said, "Who is that? Who is that big fat guy with the white beard on? Who is he?"
And one time I got a call from a lady, and her son was in the hospital in Lexington, and they remembered me from Huntington. And she said, "Would you mind," because I think the boy had chemo or something, "would you mind calling and talking to him?" And I said, "Well, sure." So I called the little fellow. And of course, I talked to him in the Froggie voice. And would you believe that little boy was so thrilled that he cried on the phone? And I thought to myself, this is great.
We had gone to West Liberty on a Friday night, and we got ready to leave. And he always carried Froggie in this strange little green paisley type suitcase. It was about this big, like it's a briefcase. So we got ready to leave. We said, "Mike, where's Froggie?" He says, "Gave him away." Well, that's not, you know, what are we going to do here? You gave away to who? Gave him away to some woman.
Yeah, I think I did give it away, and I think she was a very attractive lady. We used to play some pranks and jokes, and I think at that time we was just maybe had a little too many
there you go.
brewskis.
Exactly.
And I gave the frog to a young lady. Yes, I did.
Okay, so we drove back to Lexington all kind of down and sad, saying, "Well, this is, you know, we're really going to get him when we get to work on Monday, and what's going to happen here?" So we walked in Monday about an hour before the show and said, "Well, we've got some bad news." And what? Mike gave away Froggie. What are we going to do? Don't know. Well, Mike can still do the voice. We'll just have Froggie hide for a while.
Froggie, who you screaming at back? All that screaming going on back there?
Hey, baby.
What is going on back there?
The Froggie puppet was handmade, custom made. The guy that made it worked at the station. So we commissioned 2 to be made. So we got to make it look exactly like it's got to be exactly like the original one. Well, I don't know if I can do that or not. But we can't have his looks change. We've got to have it look exactly. So the guy's name was Julius that made it. He made 2 of them. We immediately put one in a safe. We said, if he gives this next one away, we'll have a backup. So Froggie, he was like hiding from me for weeks when it wouldn't come out. So finally we got the new puppet, and again, it came out again, and nobody ever noticed the difference. Thank goodness.
Hey, Michael. Jody here won a trip on Happy and Froggie.
I did.
Won a trip.
I won a trip to Kings Island to be in Scooby-Doo's birthday parade.
Wow. Amazing.
I can't remember when it was. I can't remember what year it was, though. But I think I was in, gosh, I think I must have been in 7th grade or so. And I watched it every day when I came home from school.
So what was the process? Did you fill something out and mail it in?
I think I called in and won it. And got to take some friends to Kings Island and march in Scooby-Doo's birthday parade.
On Channel 62, I would get home from school just in time to catch Happy's Hour. And I was, the program, as I understand it, was a vehicle to push, the Three Stooges and such, other content. But I was always all about, Happy and Froggie. And when Flash Gordon would come on, I'm like, no, go back to Happy. For me, Happy was my childhood clown. And I've done a lot of series of paintings of clowns over the years. Did a show in New York, Clowns in Love. For Valentine's Day, it was all clowns in romantic situations, which some people may find that thrilling, others may find it nauseating.
Happy and Froggie were like important in my life. But those were the days that I owned a college bar and restaurant called 803 South, and we were good friends with a lot of the folks who were in the media then, because they'd get off the air at 11:30, and we would be the place where they would go hang out.
We'd always go to lunch. It was a nice thing because it was a very cohesive unit that we never thought of as a unit, but we would go together at lunchtime and drink just gallons and gallons of beer, and eat pizza every day.
There's a lot of drinking going on back then, especially a beer during lunch, so to speak.
3 or 4 pitchers.
We'd go to La Rosa's Pizza.
Yeah. But we had a good time.
Sure, we had a great time.
I mean, and we didn't show it on the air.
No.
It didn't come out on the air that you were slurry, drunk, but had enough to give you a little buzz, To drink 12 to 24 a day was like nothing. It was just good water.
I remember coming into work one day, and he was, pulling in the back parking lot where the dumpster is, and I see this frog puppet sticking up over the dumpster, and I go around the side, and there's Mike hanging out with the liquid light.
The dumpster at that time was outside the back door, so we went out there. There Mike was, oh man, I'm sick. I gotta throw up, I'm sick. So Mikey drank too much for lunch.
Well, we'd get high and do the show. We'd run outside and smoke a joint and do the show.
I don't want to dash into these little kids' hopes and dreams about, their heroes, Happy and Froggie, but, it was just a different time. It was the 70s, late 70s. I mean, it was just a different time.
Greg Rice. Wow. Wow.
Well, man.
You look the same.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, no, no way.
I'm an old man now.
Hey, we both are.
There you go.
Yeah, we both are, man. I started here at WTVQ as a gopher. And, of course, I wasn't sure what a gopher was. And then people like Bill Denny, he told me, he said, well, you go for this and you go for that. And Jim Peridot, who was the production manager then here at WTVQ, says, yeah, I've been listening to you running around here imitating Froggie. And he says, I want you to do audition tape. I'm like, sure. I said, what do you want me to say? He said, say a 40555. So I was going, 40555, baby. A couple of weeks later, he says, guess what? You're the new Froggie. And I'm going, new Froggie? What do you mean? He goes, we want you to start doing the Froggie show.
Mike quit and returned back to Huntington. A guy who worked in the production department named Greg Rice would always imitate the Froggie voice. Just kidding. Just in his normal course of work, he would do the Froggie voice. So when Mike quit, we knew who we could get as Froggie.
It was something that internally was going on at the time, and it was nothing to do with the show. I could have stayed there, but it was just internal problems going on, and I just didn't care for them. And when I quit like in July, and I was there until Christmas because they had some personal appearances already set up, and I wouldn't not commit to something I wouldn't finish. So I did finish all of the personal appearances before I left.
But we had Froggie go away for a while, like he'd gone on an adventure of his own. Then when he came back, we had hoped that people didn't notice that the voice was a little bit different.
Wednesday.
No, today is not Wednesday. What day is today?
Today is Thursday.
Well, let me get the sign. Okay, here we go.
Wait a minute, you're stepping on
Oh,
the
wait,
toe.
I'm sorry. Well, just a minute. Wait. We're having a little bit of trouble here on the front porch. Let me, just a second, let me change the sign before we can officially do this. Uh-oh, that sign says right there. Okay, we'll be right back just a second. Now, here we go.
One more time.
Here's what it should have said, right? All right, now I can go out. Well, hello, everybody, and how are you today?
Hello.
How are you today,
All
Froggie?
right.
I was scared stiff. I had never done anything on television before. And to be thrown in that position, I was like, okay, please don't mess up. Don't, hope your voice doesn't crack or whatever. And I was very intimidated. I was safe for about the first 5 months. Tim was a character all within himself. I mean, once he transformed into Happy, I mean, he lived the role. And outside of that, Tim was normally pretty quiet guy, but he came alive when he was Happy. And like I said, he was carrying me, of course, when I came in. And Tim says, don't worry about it. I'll carry you. All you got to do is talk when I talk to you and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, Tim, whatever you say, And he kept saying, now, I want you to know, this is Happy's hour. It's not Froggie's hour, So just you keep remember that. Remember the Happy is the star. We'll have no problems. And I'm saying, okay, I can go along with that. But after a while, when Froggie was getting a little bit more attention than Tim, we were kind of having a few little spats back and forth. And I would always say something that would trigger him, and you'd see his lips start quivering because he couldn't say what he wanted to say. But he'd get his point across during the commercials.
The show was called Happy's Hour, but it might as well have been called Happy and Froggie because universally everyone knows the show as Happy and Froggie. That's what we all called it. It's time to go watch Happy and Froggie at 3:15, and so Froggie was every bit a co-star.
And one of the episodes that was really scary was one time I'm back there doing the show, and this little kid runs back behind the set, and he stops and he looks up at me, and he just freezes. But he's backing out, and he's backing out into the shot. And the little kid looked up and said, "Mommy, there's a black man back here choking Froggie." And I'm sitting there going, no, get out of here, because he saw my hand up to the frog. And, so we had to cut to a commercial real quick on that episode.
I used to have a lot of parties at the station. The station was, everybody was such a big family.
We partied all the time. It was a party. I remember we would jump in the pool naked a lot. That didn't seem to be, that was back when we were younger and thinner, and I just remember that jumping in the pool naked was not a big deal back then. And that was men, women, everybody just jumped in the pool naked.
We had some really knockdown, drag-out parties back then. It was just, Saturday nights were just party city.
We looked forward to going to his parties. I was doing weekend sports then. I just started. I hadn't been at the station probably 2 months. But that was Tim's nature. He included everyone. If he'd known you for 10 years or if he just met you, hey, come to the party. We go into the Eppenstein party. Now, the party had started about 10 or so. We got there after midnight, and it was like full throttle. There was no warm-up. You just walked in, and you were overcome by it all. And, people were dancing, and I looked up, and there's this woman dancing topless on the kitchen table. And I thought, where have I been? This is quite the eye-opener for a young kid from a small town. this is a party. And as I learned within about 10 minutes, Tim said, "Hey, did you meet my wife? One topless?" Yeah, it's Tim's wife. I said, "Now this guy's the perfect host, isn't he? I mean, that's the perfect host."
So Tim, one time, he was married, I think, at the time, and she booted him out, and he drove to Richmond and knocked on the door of my trailer. He was going like, Bud, I need a place to hang my head. Bud, it's like, okay, but, 4 or 5 days and that's it. I could see Tim being my roommate, and that would have been really weird.
He was my roommate for a couple months, and finally he moved out. It was after another divorce, I think. But my favorite Tim story, and he'll tell you this one because he told it to me, and maybe he's already told it to you, is this back when we were in Huntington. And before I knew him, actually, he worked at this radio station that I later worked at. He got up in the morning and said goodbye to his wife, went to work at the radio station. It was easy listening to radio stations. So you put on a quarter-hour music and you sit back and listen and read the newspaper, and he read about his wife's divorce proceedings against him. So he picks up the phone, calls, there's no answer. He gets somebody to relieve him at the station, drives home, the house is cleaned out. All the stuff is gone. His apparently had a truck waiting around the corner, and as soon as he pulled out of the driveway, she thought he took off, she took everything.
Yeah, I was single. Not long though. But yeah, it was quite a few good years of hopping around. Thanks to old frog. Yeah. And oh yeah, and I did have it was one time she made me this little sign that said Froggie's lily pad that put above my bed. And oh yeah, that's why I bought a waterbed.
We were doing so many personal appearances, I was literally working 7 days a week. Never a day of vacation. No, didn't take 2 weeks off. It was a live show. It couldn't, the main character couldn't go away for 2 weeks and just have Froggie out there by himself. Yes. So it really, the concept just got huge. They said, okay, what if we bring in another character with you? That way you won't have to talk, solid every day. You can kind of rest your voice. You can go sit down for a while. He can do a segment. You can come in and you can do both. I said, sure, that'll give me a little rest. So we brought in Andy Wills, who was my supposed twin brother, and we called him Happy too.
I believe that's someone knocking at the door.
Maybe he's finished his lunch.
Maybe this is him. Maybe it's somebody. Oh, come on in. Well, come on in. Watch where you're walking. Now,
Watch where I'm walking.
Be careful. Walk this way.
Watch where I walk.
Come on in.
Oh, I've been out to lunch.
What did you have for lunch today?
I went down to the Green Arches. Had frog legs.
We brought on Andy Wills as kind of Happy number 2. And, it worked okay. Tim was really the star. And
Andy was the master control operator, and he really wanted to do that.
Yeah, and the general manager, Clark Davis, it was his big idea to bring in Andy because Andy was heavy and as a former jockey, because he thought that was a great joke, But that was the only joke he had for him, So Andy came in and was just this heavy clown, and Tim was a tall clown, That was the extent of the joke.
Arnie is off on Thursdays and Fridays.
From now on, Arnie will not be with us on Thursdays and Fridays, is what you were saying. But he will be here.
He's with us in spirit, right, Arnie?
He will be here Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. So what?
So
Tim was just a natural. But
and Tim, he had the talent, and so it was hard to put anybody next to him.
Right. I mean, there would have been anybody hard pressed to go on that show. But Andy was a really good-natured guy.
My name is Anthony Wills. My father was Andy Wills, who played Happy number 2 on Happy's Hour. He seemed really proud of it, and I thought he always thought it was going to be more than what it was. I think he always felt that, that he wanted it to be more than what it was.
I was puzzled by the introduction of Happy 2, especially when it quickly got to the point where Happy 2 had quietly taken over. I loved Happy 2, big fan of Happy 2, but he was very puzzling. I understood Happy. I don't think I ever really understood Happy 2 as a clown, as a man. Happy was not a scary clown, but Happy 2 had his scary moments.
Where's my flamingo? Where's my flamingo?
Hey,
What kind of egg is this? I found this big gray egg right here. This gray egg right here.
That's a rock.
Hey,
You know, one of the things I really liked about the show was that anybody coming through town who was making a personal appearance, you know, we tried to get them on the show. And that was fun because you have all these different people, from Hollywood starlets to guys from the Dr. Hook medicine show.
Dr. Hook came out. They wanted to lip sync one of their songs. Both of their songs were a little risque. One was called When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman, and the other song was called Sexy Eyes. We said, well, go ahead and do Sexy Eyes. I said, okay. So Froggie had big eyes. So every time they got to the line about sexy eyes, we'd have a close-up shot of his eyes. Singing group Sha Na Na was in town. Why they came out, I never really knew, but they showed up in their full outfits and sang with us. Sang a cappella. Froggie was singing, I was singing, John Bowman, their lead singer, was acting crazy. Great show.
Bowser, he was a character. Bowser, matter of fact, tried to take the frog back with him. Yeah. From Sean and I, he said, oh, I like this character. I said, yeah, you know, you don't have to take him. And so he said, I'm taking him back to New York. Y'all get a job. I said, oh, come on, Bowser. You know, we need the frog.
Buster Crabbe, who played Tarzan and Flash Gordon. We started showing Flash Gordon after we got tired of showing the R Gang comedies.
We had Buster Crabbe on.
Yeah, Buster Crabbe made an appearance.
He liked sitting around talking to us. He liked having people that wanted to hear about what he did as Flash Gordon. But
he was telling about that girl that played in Dale Arden.
Dale Arden.
In Flash
there were
Gordon.
A couple of them.
Yeah, he said he was hitting on her all the time, and she just hated him, you know. And
I got to meet Diana Ross. So, you know, I'm like, hello, Diana. And I go, oh, my God, here's Motown Queen, and I'm over here giving her the frog voice.
It was Morgan Brittany.
Is that her name?
Was that
Morgan
it?
Brittany, yeah.
And
because there's a Brittany Morgan, I get them all confused.
It wasn't, yeah.
And Lana Wood.
And Lana Wood, yeah.
Natalie Wood's sister. And if she's in Diamonds Are Forever, if you've ever seen the James Bond movie, she's the one that gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, she dies.
Yeah, into the pool.
It was the Friday before the Kentucky Derby, 1978. Actress Lana Wood, who was the sister of the late Natalie Wood, and a actress named Morgan Brittany, who had been in the television series Dallas. They were visiting the owner of the C&H Rao jewelry chain named Harry Cohen. The story we got was they were sitting there in Harry's house watching television and said, Harry, what is this on television? This is one of the strangest things we've ever seen.
Lana and I, we were together most of the time down there because, you know, we knew each other, we traveled together. And I do remember seeing the show. I remember seeing it and thinking, because I loved the Little Rascals. I had grown up watching those shows, and of course I had worked with Jackie Cooper in Twilight Zone, and so I always loved the Little Rascals, and I think that day they were running the films of the Little Rascals.
Yeah, it was very funny. We were just sitting and relaxing and watching TV as well as mingling, and this ridiculously funny show came on, and we just thought it was a hoot, Morgan and I both.
I think they were there partying a little bit, and they saw this thing happening on TV and said, that's pretty funny, and I'm sure Anita Madden, somebody said, that's live, that's going on right now.
Yeah. Somebody's at the door.
Not at home.
Could
Hey,
be. Walk this way. Just walk over this. Open up the door. Just open up the door and see who it is. Oh! Morgan!
Lana! We haven't seen you in so long. How have you been?
See, I told you. You weren't kidding me this time.
Oh.
You weren't kidding.
This is Lana Wood. Did he tell you we were coming?
Lana and I had no idea what we were going to do, what we were going to say. We didn't know these people. We didn't know anything about anything.
And the one thing they wanted us to do was read The Little Birthday, and that was about the only direction we got. Otherwise, it was a free-for-all, as I'm sure you recall.
Yeah. What happened?
Froggie just told us a secret. Yeah.
What did he say?
In our little magic mirror, we That's can right. look through the camera right there. Right over there. And see that it is Clarky Davis's birthday.
That's right.
Clarky Davis. Hi, Clarky. And hello to little Iris, too.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah, I remember just looking out my little porthole going,
Oh, baby. Hello. Oh, boy, mighty mountains of joy.
And, of course, the mountains of joy, you should kind of use your imagination.
Yeah, hello. Oh.
Hey.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And then took over with
Wait a
Froggie
minute. Wait a
My
minute.
God.
Lana is very quick on her feet, and she's very funny. And so something might set her off to say something.
I thought I made such a big impression the last time I was here. I fell down in wet cement.
You fell down in wet cement.
And left a big impression.
A big.
That's okay.
Hey, where's your suitcase at?
She had a long dress on, and she was like raising. I went to shake her hand, and she put her knee up to my hand, and it was, you know, they got a great kick out of it, and we certainly did too.
No, you didn't introduce me yet, too. I'm just standing here. You just well, introduce me over here, okay?
You ought to really go ahead. Right.
This is Morgan.
And that is Morgan. Hello.
How are you?
You can stop anytime. Okay, that's enough. All
Isn't
right.
that the next one?
No, but anyway.
Froggie came out. Lana Wood had put her shoulder like right on Froggie's little porch. He came out and went like whoa! And he actually said, "Oh my God!" And then went back in. And she turned around and said, "Froggie poo-pooed on my sweater."
We didn't get any cake.
No, we didn't. Made poo-poo on my sweater.
We did. Froggie, be careful over this.
Couldn't help himself.
Be careful over there, Froggie. Okay.
Lana Wood said, "Oh, Froggie made poo-poo on my shoulder." and Tim, of course, you know, doesn't skip it. He goes, "Froggie, control yourself." And he goes, "I couldn't help myself."
You know, back then that was almost like an F-bomb in TV in 78, 79 or something. You know, you just couldn't say that kind of word on TV.
Actually, I was thinking, Lana, it's a children's show. Please, it's a children's show.
I remember making a rather rude remark about something Froggie had left on my shoulder, but I was kidding.
It was like 5 or 6 minutes of some of the funniest TV that's ever been in Lexington, and I would put it up, that moment, against anybody's children's show, anywhere in the country. That moment, it was just priceless. Just knowing how spontaneous everything was, and to be able to take it and go with it, and you know, Tim and Greg both just going with it. Nobody stopped, and that's amazing.
You want to go watch the Rascals, though?
Yes.
You got it. Well, you had to tell them to. You had to say, "Roll 'em, Arnie."
Roll 'em, Arnie.
Hey, Jerry, give me a bigger entrance.
The original director of the show, Rick Klein, lived down in here somewhere. Right. And he knew the house. So when we were doing that, we did that open very early on a Sunday morning. Right. And he said, and then I could very end, he says, "We'll end up at that house." I said, "What house?" He said, "I've got this house in mind. We'll end up there. You'll go in the front door, and then when you come out in the studio, you come out that door, and then you're coming in the house." Right. Which is kind of interesting from a continuity standpoint. But he had spied this house out.
That's the house. Oh, yeah. But so I remember watching the show really, really well, and it was probably, you know, again, 6 or 8 years later that we bought the house and all the pieces fell together. But we've been talking about Happy and Froggie's house now for 30 years that we live in Happy and Froggie's place. And I hadn't seen the footage of the opening since we had owned the house. Until, you know, a month or two ago, and just, it was just amazing. Almost kind of, it sounds silly, but almost sort of, you know, a little chill down your spine. You're just like, oh man, there it is. I don't know if did you ever actually get in the door? That's what I've always wondered. But like that's the mirror we were talking about. Yeah, that's right. You can actually get in the house for the first time. And I didn't really think about the fact that I was wearing my bookstore t-shirt. Yeah, what the hell.
Toward the end of the series is we launched this kind of series within the show called Space Happy, where Happy and Happy 2 went on board a spaceship.
We blasted them off into space. We called it Space Happy. We did an open like Star Trek with a little plastic rocket and the star field behind it and all that.
Space, the foodless frontier. These are the voyages of the lost and confused Hobo 1. Its 2-week mission is void of meaning and totally ignored by all civilizations. Join with us now as we glide aimlessly through the stars with Space Happy.
Tell me.
Look out the window.
Look out the window.
What?
What is?
I'm looking out the window. What about it? What is that?
By that time, Clark Davis had moved on to somewhere else, and the general manager's name was Jeff Evans. And I went to him, I said, Mr. Evans, I've got to quit. I just, it's physically and mentally just wearing me out. So I quit. There was an article in the Lexington Herald Leader about it, said, Happy's not happy anymore. It's none of your business. For some reason, they just chose not to tell anybody what happened. The show ran for a few months after that with Andy and Froggie.
The show was kind of, going down, not downhill, but it was kind of easing its way out. We were getting a lot of syndicated property, and there really wasn't the market to have a local kids program on that much longer.
Programming came along. By that time, there was indeed syndicated programming. And in late 1979, it just faded away. And that was the end of it.
In fact, I was the host of the show the last week that it was on the air.
Wow.
Before it died.
Well, ready to go?
Well, just give me a second to reminisce.
Okay. I'm going to head out the back door and give the horse a little hay and bring her around front. Be ready to go, okay?
Whatever you say.
I'll meet you out there. See you in a minute, Froggie.
I walked out and we did like a lights out with Froggie, and we rolled credits that ran forever and ever with every single person we could think of who had been affiliated with the show.
How did that even go? Was it Froggie like Froggie was the last one?
Yeah, I walked out, we kind of dimmed the lights, and he said, because we were leaving. We were leaving, we're going to leave and go somewhere else. I guess that's how we were closing the show. And so Froggie said, I want to stay around for a minute, and I walked out, and he stayed there and said his goodbye, and we dimmed the lights, and then rolled credits, and that was the end of it. And it was pretty sad, but all those shows seem to have a life. They run their period, and then they go.
I guess it's goodbye. Bye, y'all. See you later.
It was on a Saturday night about 9 o'clock, and I was actually in bed, and my wife was getting ready to come to bed. The phone rang. She said, there's some guy on the phone for you. I don't know who it is. Just some guy. Oh, okay. It was Andy. So Andy and I had a long talk. We'd reminisced all the old times. But it was almost like Andy had called up to tell me bye. And to this day, I firmly believe that. Andy was a huge guy at one time. He'd had the gastric bypass surgery done. After he had that done, his health just deteriorated terribly.
So they told him, they said, we don't really think there's any way you're going to get healthy on your own. So this is experimental. We want to do this to you. And he let him do it. And he was in and out of the hospital my whole life. Like, it seemed like every 3 or 4 months he was in the hospital for at least a couple weeks. His body just completely shut down, and that's pretty much it.
But he called me up, and we just had a great session reminiscing old times, and that's the last I ever spoke to him. But I'm certainly glad I was there to take that call that night.
I feel like the peak of American culture took place in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and you had all of these clown shows and children's shows that had this format, from Howdy Doody to Happy's Hour. And I think Happy's Hour is the last gasp of that tradition. It was the last vestige of this great old-fashioned family entertainment that it had an indefinable quality that is lacking in all children's shows today.
We've kind of lost that, I don't know, that innocence that Happy's Hour brought. We don't have that anymore. And it's such a shame that children now can't grow up with that innocence and that sweetness and that the clowns and Froggie and just that childhood innocence and fantasy that Happy's Hour brought.
Actually, it was a very special time back then, those kind of shows. I just grit my teeth now and run and hide and try to dissuade the kids from watching anything at all, because I just find we've sort of fallen apart as far as structure goes for a child.
Children can't connect with things that are real, that are alive. Everything has to be animated and so programmed and so packaged anymore. And I think that worries me. And I wish that they would let children see the raw edges and the roughness of a human life and the way things happen. If there are mistakes, let them happen. And just but show them something real and something that they can maybe relate to in some way.
You take a cardboard and you cut a hole in it, you put a guy behind it with a sock puppet that's a frog, and you throw a little grease paint on a guy and he becomes Happy the Hobo, and you stick him out there on live TV. There's no way this would ever be done today, and yet they pulled it off, and they gave everybody good memories. And I think that's that's a time that's worth looking back on.
I miss those days dearly, because it was always fun to know, gee, it's time to go to work, and what are we going to do today? What's going to happen today?
I'm 56 years old now, and this was back in the mid-70s stuff. There are people still to this day that don't know my name. They still call me Froggie. And so that label is going to stick with me forever. Froggie will live forever. So we're happy.
Yeah, we'd like to come back. Anybody out there interested in us, let us know.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, let's get young.